everyone, welcome back. I hope you all had a very happy Thanksgiving. I know I did. I got to see a whole lot of awesome friends and family, and that's what that day is all about. So, mission accomplished. But I hope you all had a great holiday weekend. I wanted to talk about something that I feel like it's one concept, but when properly executed, is what will take your business and set it free. And what I mean by this is, I deal with a lot of business owners who have these frustrations, whether it's, a lack of growth or just this feeling of constant grinding. Like there's always fires that have to be put out. There's like constant issues. It's just never ending. And these are all things that are very common in businesses. And there's one culprit, generally. I will say there is oftentimes one singular culprit. And that's a great thing because there's very simple ways in which you can resolve this one issue. And that one issue is communication. I can tell you that I can go into a business and look at what's going wrong and all of that and basically trace just about anything back to communication. So it's this very pervasive thing in businesses, and it doesn't matter what industry you're in. You can be a communications business and have crappy communication in your business. So, I came up with the three concepts. Now, I've talked about these three concepts separately, and I said, you know what? These are the three concepts that really resolve this one major issue. And I say this one major issue causes so many seemingly unrelated problems. But I came up with the acronym CPR. So this is what's going to save your life. It's going to save your business. It's going to save you from all the heartache and struggle and frustration and all of that business owners, experience when they're dealing with these issues in their business. And that acronym is CPR. So let me break down what the three things are. CPR. So C is culture. And I know I preach about this a lot, but I can't express enough how powerful culture is. And culture is a form of communication. So what culture does is it expresses who you are as a business and what you're about and the kind of principles that you want your employees to embody. And these are the things, these are like the guiding lights that help your employees make decisions. I call it having a culture of empowerment. So using a culture of empowerment in your business is a way of actually automating a lot of things that a lot of business owners tend to busy themselves with. So empowering means giving your employees the power to make decisions and think for themselves. This is something that in itself is one thing I see a lot of business owners struggle and fail at because they don't want to let things go. They don't want to allow people to think for themselves and make decisions, which sounds a little weird, but it's because you're afraid of what's gonna happen when they make mistakes. The thing is that people do make mistakes, and you can't stop the mistakes from ever happening. There's no way to stop mistakes. We are all human. We are all involved in these processes, so mistakes will happen here and there. And you have to realize that you're going to get much bigger wins for letting them make the small mistakes. And sometimes a mistake can be a little bit big, and really depending on how big, will really determine whether or not that employee is a good fit for your business. But generally, most employees, especially when they're well trained, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but when they're well trained and they're well qualified for the job, they don't make huge mistakes. They make small mistakes, but the wins far outweigh the mistakes. So a culture of empowerment is really, really important to setting you free from your business. If you are feeling like, you like, crap, I got into this because I wanted freedom and I wanted all this stuff and now I don't have it. Like I'm tied into this business. It's like sucked me in and it won't let me go. Having a culture of empowerment will really help ease that. So the second one is processes. So what I mean by that is processes of communication. So this can include things like reviews and meetings and having productive meetings. So we should call them productive processes. But, you know, these are all systems of communication. It's very, very important that you have processes behind your communication, because you need to be communicating. You need to be making sure that you're communicating about everything. So what I mean by like a process of communication is, for example, if you were going to change something like your employees' benefits, or their pay grade was going to change in some way, you know, their pay structure, their bonus structure, something that really affects them on a daily basis. You're going to change your business hours. These are all things that I would say the process you would have for that is, you would have a process where, let's say, you let your employees know that you're thinking about this and that you're going to be discussing this. So you're going to be discussing pay grades. You're going to be discussing hour changes, things like that. And you want to give them time to process the fact that something is going to change, because God knows, we all know how much most people don't really love change in the first place. So, but really the most important, I mean, change, obviously, you don't want to spring change on people, but one of the things about it really is the uncertainty factor. So this may seem like it might create uncertainty, but what it really does is it makes it removes uncertainty, because you know that there's potentially a change. There may or may not be a change, and when it comes, they're not surprised by it. And the thing is the reason that this removes uncertainty is that they know that if something is going to change, they're going to know about it before it happens, so it won't be sprung on them. I've seen so many business owners just suddenly decide they're going to change something really drastic, and and they give like no warning whatsoever. It's just done. So like somebody's entire bonus structure could be completely different, and they're just like, oh, by the way, here's your new bonus structure, we changed it. And they're just like, what? And you know, now it's all, now now they're reacting. There's no proactive, there's no, you know, if they wanted to have some say so, or have some input, or if they just wanted to voice something prior to the decision being made, and again, that's all part of communication. You know, you have this process. If you don't have the process in place, you don't allow that communication to happen. And people don't love having that kind of uncertainty that something may just change on a whim, or having things like, God, you know, it's like, oh, you change this, and, you know, next month you're going to decide to do something different. So, you know, I mean, we don't know how long this will even last. You know, these are all things, those sort of things need to be done on a slower and more deliberate pace, where you're communicating with whoever is being impacted kind of every step of the way. So that's really important because uncertainty is one of those things that is like a cancer in your business. If you create a lot of uncertainty, and unclear expectations, that's not good for your employees. It creates a lot of unrest and a lot of dissatisfaction and a lot of discomfort for them in their jobs, and that will cause a lot of big problems. If you want to create a lot of turnover, create a lot of uncertainty. You'll have that pretty quick. So that's just an example of processes of communication. You know, you also have to consider, you know, when you're dealing with people, you have people who need more information, people who need less information, people who prefer email, people who prefer phone calls. So you can't, you know, you want to build processes into all of that, so that you are able to clearly communicate with all of your team, no matter who they are. I used to send out emails, and I would write the emails, and when they started getting, like, when I was like, oh, it's starting to get a little long, I would do a video and write it. And I would write it shorter, and I would do a video, and I would give like a short synopsis at the beginning and then break into it more, and yada yada. And that was so I could communicate with people who only needed a little bit of information, who needed a lot of information, and who took in information better through audio or even, whether they watch the video, who knows, but at least they can hear the information coming through. If they didn't want to sit there and read it. Some people just cannot sit there and like digest information by reading through things. So, I mean, again, processes of communication are really, really important. Another process of communication before I move on to the last part is training. Training is an incredibly important process of communication, and I guarantee you most businesses are underutilizing this in big ways. And you know what? If you study really successful businesses, a lot of them you will find, especially like the best of the best in any industry, you'll find that they spend a lot of time and money on training their teams. So I can't express enough how important it is that training happens. If you are bringing in employees and you give them a employee manual and you're just like, you get an hour to read this and then get to work, that's not good communication. I would spend the entire first day just talking to them about basic expectations, how to speak, how to dress, how to yada yada, and our business culture. And that was basically the bulk of day one. Other than they would spend like the first hour or so doing all the paperwork and yada yada. So yes, training is a really, really important one. I instituted, 1 to 2 week training periods where they're just training. It's not even like hands-on, at least not very much. But and I would also have them learn all the different departments, and that helped with communication too. Because once they go around and they see how all the different positions work and what everybody's job roles are, then they better understood if they had a question about something, who they could go and ask, who is the best person to be, running these questions by. So again, communication through processes, especially training, extremely, extremely important. This is one major thing that if people would just do this, even if they didn't do the other two things, if they just did this, they would improve so much in their business. But the third thing, and this is really, really important too, is recognition. So recognition doesn't have to be like this huge grandstanding, giving out shining, sparkling awards and, having a stage and all the people here. And it can be as simple as a high five or just saying, hey, you know what? You did a good job today. But that is a communication that is very, very important, especially if you find it, because I've seen this so many times, is especially if you know and you need to know enough about yourself to know, am I critical? Do I have a tendency to criticize people? Because if you're that person that, on a daily to weekly basis is, you will go to the, an employee and say, hey, you did this wrong, or hey, you're not doing this right, or something like that. If that's the only communication you're giving them, let me tell you what they're feeling. They're feeling like, I never do anything right. They could be doing 98% of their job right, and you keep talking to them about the 2% they're doing wrong. And what they're going to feel, because this is all you're communicating to them, is I'm not doing anything right. So you have to communicate when they are doing things right. And it doesn't matter. I see business owners go, well, that's what I pay them to do. Who cares? Does a high five really hurt you? Do you want them to be top performers? Because if you do, then you need to recognize them for doing their work well. Bottom line. So, I hear, people gripe and complain like, well, I pay them to do this. So what? Somebody else could go get paid somewhere else to do the job. Do you want to keep your employee or don't you? Do you want to spend the thousands of dollars it takes to train a new employee to come work for you? Recognize your employees for doing a good job and do it based on, you can do like a simple high five. That means a lot to people. There's a lot of people that if you every now and then just came by and said, hey, you know what? I saw what you did here and I thought that was awesome. Great job. High five. That means so much to people that if you just did that, it would mean the world to people. But even I'm excited. So I have recently worked on developing like the one-liner that explains what my business does. And so I'm looking forward to, teaching this to my employees And then, the one, like an example of recognition is because I want them to learn it. I want them to be able to rattle it off the same way I'm learning to rattle it off. But just going around and, walking in the morning and saying, okay, who can tell me what we do here? What do we do here? And the first person who like nails that one liner, all right, here you go. $5 or $10 or a gift card or whatever the case may be. But I mean, really just like, here, $5. Thanks. Good job. And just keep doing that. Just show up next morning. Okay, who can tell me what we do here? Not Susan. You told me yesterday. John, you got this? Perfect. Here you go. These are simple little ways of recognizing, and that's all. That's a big, that in itself. That's recognizing people for doing a good job. And you're also teaching them how to clearly communicate what your business does, which is so important. So, I mean, communication, I can't say enough, is like one of the major linchpins of success. And it is also one of the major issues in businesses, is because most businesses are not properly, effectively, or frequently enough communicating with their employees and really with their customers. I mean, it's that you'll see a lot of businesses that are great marketers, and marketing is communication. So they do great job at communicating with their customers. But they do a piss poor job of communicating to their own employees. It's important everywhere. Communication solves a lot. I mean, look at how people save marriages. They go to counseling and they talk about things. They communicate with each other. Usually marriage breakdowns happen because of a lack of communication in some way. So communication solves so much in life that you need to be very hyper focused on it if you are a business owner and you have employees, whether you got one or you have 1,000. All right, so that's my preaching for today. I hope you got something out of this video. Like my video, respond, tell me what you think, tell me what your issues are. I want to hear from you guys. I really appreciate your support, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a great holiday, guys. Bye.